wouldn't still be standing. I'll also, since we're all family, just, admit that I do occasionally emotionally eat. And, cake of any kind factors, pretty regularly into my life. So you can make a note of that. Red velvet and pound cake especially. So that fuels me.
And what you mentioned about government's role and the individual role, what would you like to see your constituents doing in addition to voting?
Yeah, I appreciate the question very much, because I think so often people define civic engagement only by voting and running for office. And there's a lot in between. I was speaking on a panel yesterday because I'm very passionate about the need for social and emotional wellness supports in our schools. I do know that trauma is a barrier to learning. I experienced, that myself. And I was saying that teachers are feeling all of this. They're less inclined to make the investments that I want to see for a nurse, a social worker, a guidance counselor, because they're so stressed out about rigor and outcomes. And I was sort of, begging the administrators to think about citizenship, right? In a very broad definition. I had my mother sacrificed risking eviction on a month-to-month basis to send me to one of the best private schools in Chicago. And the theme of our school was diversity, innovation, and citizenship. And I'm reminded of the words of our former President Barack Obama that said that educators are our nation builders, right? They build people up so they can build the world up. And so I would like for people to stand a little bit more in that power as citizens, being neighborly, of not feeling that they need a comma and a title after their name to lead or to contribute. And it is true, all politics really is local. And I think people are so overwhelmed by the scope of our problems today that they're paralyzed because they want to contribute, but they don't know what's their access point, what's manageable. You guys already work long days, have demanding lives, but all politics is local. It can just be on your block. It can just be on your lunch break, right? And so that is something that I would like to see. And I would like to see a return to a level of civility and decorum. Social media. So I just turned 44 years old, and the influence of social media in politics is unbelievable. I mean, I remember when I worked for Senator John Kerry on his re-election campaign in 1996, we received an innovation award for using email. Okay, all right. I mean, I remember standing around the fax machine waiting for the congressman's schedule because it dictated everything. I mean, and just waiting, right? And so now it is very daunting as an elected official, all these platforms we have to watch and monitor and manage, and I'll wrap here. And so it's become this culture of hashtags and likes, and so people start thinking something isn't real, and there's a lot of self-policing. I mean, the great thing about the evolution of any movement is that you get to decide your own brand of activism. There's not these binary choices anymore. But social media is taking a lot of that away. I remember, may he rest in peace, when Mayor Menino passed away. And so the media had called and asked if I had a conflict with Tom Menino because I didn't send a tweet saying rest in peace and prayers to the family. And I said, no, I called the family. Everything, it's not only real, it is, so that is driving me crazy. So we got to get behind, social media activism and bumper sticker values. We got to get to a place of building a community and being intentional in our movement building.
I want to just piggyback a little bit on Wendy's question and ask a different one. What would you like to see Fidelity, a company like Fidelity, do? And then what should policymakers be doing to support companies like Fidelity?
Oh, well, you all need to tell me that. I told you I believe in governing cooperatively, so please let me know in all the ways in which we're making your job or your lives harder. I have a feeling that most people in this room will say, please fix the tea. So, you know. So you all can just, keep that coming. Let me know about that. As far as, where are these folks in? Are they living in Massachusetts too?
They're all around.
Okay, why?
So we're going to have them
All right, hi y'all. I know you're like, you're in Boston. Why do you say y'all from Chicago? What country? Most Southern people don't know that. But so what can Fidelity do? First, you're already doing it, and so I will lift you up as a model of what more companies need to do. And then secondly, to get to this larger issue of the wealth gap and the fact that so many black folks through the foreclosure crisis lost the only equity that they had, which was in their homes, right? And very few, I'll just say I didn't receive that education. I'm 44 and I'm having to unlearn a lot of bad behaviors and practices. I'll be fully transparent about that. I was working for a congressman and I was still cashing my check at a check cashing facility. I just really did not know any better. And sort of this idea that, through resilience and through increased opportunity and maybe a little bit of talent too, that I was able to begin to shift and change the trajectory of my family's life and our story, but I still didn't have the tools, and so any role that you all can play in that, so far as education is concerned, and also pathways to career opportunities here. It's very trendy to talk about attracting talent, but I don't want us to lose sight of the need to retain homegrown talent. And so how do we not only just make sure that homegrown folk have a readiness to be prepared for these jobs, because this is one of our largest sectors in our economy here in Massachusetts, right? Academia, healthcare, financial services, and now hospitality is growing. But how do we strengthen those pipelines? I do not want any more brain drain. People going to Chicago and Atlanta and LA because they think there's greater opportunity there, or that the housing is more affordable, or the transit system is better, or the nightlife and the culture. Let me just say something about that. We talk about the livability of a city according to reliable, affordable, accessible transit, affordable housing, quality schools, safe communities. It's true, sustainability. All those things do contribute to the livability of a city. But the thing that matters most, what keeps people, what attracts people, is the soul. It's the soul of the city, and that's the work that we still need to do here in Boston. It's that soul piece, that soul tie, that makes people want to make roots and make a life and raise a family. And so, that ether, that ecosystem, there's a lot more we have to do to arrive at that point.
I'm going to go to all those folks out there. So does anyone in the audience, in TV land, I guess, or monitor land, have a question? Anyone? No questions? Okay. Someone? Okay.
There's rental disparity, especially in the city. Everything's building up, and there's these one bedrooms for $3,000. I've also heard stories, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, when I lived in Waltham, that instead of needing to include lower income housing in a development, they would just pay a fine.
Sure.
So that already segregates everything. Is there anything that you're doing about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I should add that this is not a problem unique to Boston. This is a regional challenge. It is a national challenge. I don't know that any one city has figured out how to both do things like I'm pushing with restaurants, right? How do you add value to community, enhance the quality of life, make it more livable and desirable place to live without displacement? You know, gentrification and displacement, this is a challenge for our country. And in fact, the reason why I was a couple of minutes late today is because I was at a hearing, which is still going on, about the impact of Airbnb and investors that are just coming and buying up whole buildings and evicting people. In the last 36 hours, as I was moving in and out of different rooms, 5 different families approached me and said they were experiencing homelessness. And again, the face of homelessness, I mean, please know that it has changed. I mean, these are not just, you know, low income or the working poor. These are professional people, you know, that are in our spaces, that are working every day, and they just cannot make ends meet. If you're spending, let's talk about the confluence of these two things. Massachusetts is number 2 in the country when it comes to child care costs. It is $18,000 per child for early education and care. Second highest in the country. Now, you want to talk about keeping families here and stabilizing a workforce and acknowledging how critical that is to the growth of our economy, the growth and development of our economy. And these two things work hand in glove. All of them there's an intersectionality there. Transit, housing, childcare. You know, so if people are spending 80% of their income on rent, how are they affording childcare to even go to work? You know, and then how do we at the same time ensure that for all of our efforts then to make housing more affordable and to create jobs where people are working at a living wage and have the benefit, but if they can't navigate the city and get to any of these things, it doesn't matter. So, you know, we can't look at any of these issues siloed. We have to address them all collectively. So one of the things that I continue to do is, one, to push for more truly affordable housing in the city of Boston. This is challenging because the developers are using the formula of area and median income, which is influenced by Brookline, right? Which is a much more affluent neighborhood. So even the metric that the developers are using to define affordability is not even what's truly affordable. We're talking about workforce housing. We're talking about my aides that are 40 years old living in congregate housing with 4 and 5 roommates. You know, that's not what they want to be doing. So we have to continue to push these developers. And also, I'm just a big fan of, which is why I'm so passionate about transit-oriented smart growth development, mixed use and mixed income. Because I don't want us creating segregated pockets of poverty. And what happens is, I'll push for the creation of more small businesses and restaurants, but then there'll be no purchasing power within community to make sure that those businesses are thriving and they are sustainable. And again, that also feeds our the segregation, you know, of our city. So, you know, I just continue one development project at a time to push our developers to do more, to do better. And as we're having conversations with Amazon, and as we did with GE, to make sure that there are real community benefits that support and mitigate the ways with which this growing population is exacerbating these existing issues. So how do we have community benefits as a part of these development deals that will mitigate and address some of these things, that you'll see a greater investment in affordable housing? We did just pass the Community Preservation Act, which is going to annually generate $20 million in perpetuity to both address affordable housing, historic preservation, and also green and open space. So I'm hoping that will also be helpful. But you know, no one has figured it out, but I'm working feverishly while drinking my coffee and eating my cake, you know, to get at it. So,
well, I think we're coming to a close. I just want to thank you so much
for
your time today and for your commitment to the city of Boston, to the residents of Boston, your passion,
Thank
around this work and your focus on women and girls and the poor and all of the great things that
Thank you.
Thanks so much.